I see a lot of people making simple mistakes when wearing their watches, so here are 5 tips to help you as a new watch collector. Now, for those of you that are new to mechanical watches, there are those that you need to wind every day. There are also automatics. Automatics are going to have the rotor on the inside, which will wind the watch as you wear it. You can wind both of these style of watches, and you can overwind them and do it too quickly and actually lead to damage down the road. If you have a screw-down crown, the first thing you're going to want to do is roll it out and pop it to the first position. This first position is usually going to be where you wind it. You're going to wind it up and you're going to go kind of slow. You're going to want to do about 10 to 15 times. That will give it just enough power to get going and get started. If you're doing a manual wind, you can go a few more and that will keep it charged as well. Another thing for mechanical watches that you want to be careful with is setting the date. Now, when I go to set the date, I don't want to use the quick date change function between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. Problem is, you may not know which time it is if you just picked it up off the shelf and it hasn't been worn in a while. What I like to do is set the time to, let's say, 6:30, then change the date, then change the time and do a full wraparound to change the date ahead, then set the local time. I know it sounds a little bit more work, but guess what? You got a mechanical watch and that's a part of the whole ritual, is setting the time, winding it, and getting it set to go. Speaking of automatic watches, if you're going to do storage for it and not want it to stop, the option you're going to want to choose is using a watch winder. A watch winder, and I like Wolf, I think they make the best quality. I've had no issues with them. If you get a cheap one off of Amazon, it can overwind it. It's not the best thing to do. This will wind it, this will keep the thing moving, and it will keep your time, it will keep the watch running. That's always a good option if you rotate through a bunch of different watches, have automatics, and are gonna pick these off and wear them now and then. If you don't have automatics, you have solar powered, you have quartz, or if you don't mind having your watch sit in a cool display. One of the best ones that I have is this Holman Hadfield watch display, and it's even got a drawer below it. Awesome stuff, great pricing, really high quality. I love this. If you want to get into travel, we've actually launched one of these. It's a 6-slot watch holder, and it's Hexagon, so it's not going to roll around. You can put your watches in, you can easily slide them in and out, and actually you can put this on a shelf or a desk and have a cool display as well. In terms of storage, if you're, let's say, going to keep them, put them in a closet, put them in a safe deposit box, these coffins are really awesome. We have these as well, fairly inexpensive. This is how the watch arrives at your jewelry store. When they order them, they don't come in those fancy boxes. I'm talking Rolexes, Audemars, Omegas. They're all gonna come in one of these coffin style boxes to the jeweler with the tags on it. So they take it out of this. They have the card that goes with it. So when you're using this, you're actually using the storage that the OEMs use. One funny thing I've seen a few times, which is kind of outrageous, is wearing the watch on the outside of your shirt. Now, unless you are a pilot, which is why these were designed to have bigger things, or an astronaut, or a diver with a dive suit, do not put the watch on the outside of your clothing. The watches, when they were used on the outside of a clothing or a jacket or a dive suit or a space suit, that's what they were designed for. They were designed to have a lot of width. They were even designed to have an expansion on the bracelet, and that was for a specific tool use. A pilot on the outside of their jacket could easily see their watch. A diver on the outside of their wetsuit can see it, glance at their watch, and of course an astronaut with an Omega on can look down and see their watch. Otherwise, if you're an everyday Joe walking around, you look kind of silly if you have it on the outside of your clothing. Now, when you're shopping for watches, if you're in person, it's really easy to try it on and see how it fits. If you're shopping online, I get it. It's kind of difficult to get the whole idea. What you'll want to first do is figure out the size of your wrist. And you can simply do this by going right above that little bump of your wrist, taking one of these tailor straps or string and ruler. Not everybody has this, but this is very easy. You just wrap it around to see what your wrist is. So for example, I'm like a 6.5. What you can also do is take a piece of string or yarn, wrap it around, make the mark, and then measure it on a ruler. Then you'll know, am I a 6-inch wrist? Am I a 6.5? Am I a 7? Am I an 8? And it'll give you an idea of how big your wrist is compared to what you're gonna put on it. Now, in looking at the size of a watch, usually you'll hear the first thing, which is gonna be the diameter. The diameter is from this side of the watch to this side of the watch without the crown. Diameter is usually gonna be 40, 42, 38, 36, 45s can get pretty big. That'll show you the size of the watch in general on your wrist. Another one that's kind of important in terms of the overall size is your lug to lug. And lug to lug is gonna measure the top of this point to the bottom of this point. Now for us, we actually curve our lugs. So even though we have a 42mm watch, we pull them in a little bit and it feels more like a 41. The thickness of a watch is also gonna tell you how high it sits off of your wrist. Most of them are gonna be pretty standard. They're gonna be 10 millimeters to, let's say, 12, 12 and a half, 13, 14. They give us a little bit more chunky, especially with the dive watches. You're gonna be getting pretty thick. Now there's some super funky ones, like Richard Mille just did one with Ferrari, and it's about the size of a credit card. That's extreme. That's outrageous. I know some people get really into how thin can you make your watch, and there's some super thin movements. In terms of standard, let's say diver, everyday field watches, you're gonna be about 12, 11. The other measurement you're gonna wanna pay attention to if you wanna change straps is between lugs. Between lugs for this one is 22 millimeters. There's also 20 millimeters. They kind of go with the size of the watch. So if you have a 40 millimeter diameter watch, you're probably gonna have a 20 millimeter strap, lug to lug. If you have a 42, you're gonna have a 22. It kind of goes inside with the size of the watch. But that's how you know what size your strap is the measurement between here, and that's how you get the strap, so if you wanna swap those out. All those measurements together with how it will sit on your wrist will give you a pretty good idea. And I would suggest, especially if you're ordering stuff online and you're hesitant and all, check with the company and see, are they able to send this to you? What's the return policy? Because for us, I know we're always like, hey, if I send it to you, you put it on, it doesn't fit right, send it right back. No restocking fee, no issues. And there's a lot of different companies out there, especially micro brands, which will accommodate this. Now, where was your watch made? That can be really important to some people. We've got Swiss made movements. Of course, we got Salitas, we got Eddas. A lot of your watches like Omegas, Rolexes, of course, all the top end brands are gonna be Swiss made. However, when you get to the kind of smaller brands and you start seeing the term Swiss made, that doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means. 60% of it, basically it just has to be designed in Switzerland, which is very easily, and 60% of the total production costs have to come from Switzerland. We can get deeper into this in another video. Just because something says Swiss made doesn't mean it's made in Switzerland. So I know I hate on homage watches quite a bit, as you've seen in my other videos. I usually don't like buying something when I want the real thing and getting something similar, because I feel like you're always gonna pine for the original. If I want the Rolex GMT and I buy something that looks like it, never scratches that itch, and you end up wearing something that looks like something you really want. Wait till you can buy the Ferrari or buy something completely different. That's just my opinion. However, there are lots of micro brand companies out there, and if you're searching and you find something that looks, oh, this looks pretty cool, it looks like a GMT, looks like a Rolex Submariner, some other company, and it goes for like 300 bucks. A lot of times those guys just pulled it out of a catalog from China or Hong Kong, changed the label. It's just called relabeling. Basically, they change the label, maybe they change a couple different things on it to badge it differently. It's the same watch you're gonna get from other people that you know of that are made in China watches. Quality's gonna be okay, but again, I try and stay away from those in general because it's never gonna scratch the itch. It's not really, in the end, you're not gonna be super happy with it. There's really no point in wasting your money on something that isn't the real thing that you really want. Getting a lookalike is just a step towards buying more stuff that's a lookalike. Wasting your money on something that looks like something you really want isn't the best option. I strongly recommend finding something in your price range that is unique, that complements your style, that is something for you, rather than going down the homage route. If you're just getting into watch collecting and want to get a budget watch, a nice entry-level watch, check out this watch challenge we did when we hit up 3 retailers with 3 college kids.